Hello students, let us learn General Science for class 7 from the book Science Square. We are going to learn today chapter about forest, our lifeline. In this chapter, we are going to discuss about forest, canopy, stratification, signification and conservation of forest. Let us begin the chapter. We know that a forest is an area or a part of a land that is covered with trees and also possesses variety of plants and animals. Not only this, forests form a complete ecosystem that includes various living organisms such as trees, shrubs, plants, microbes, wild animals, and birds. They also include non-living or abiotic factors such as light, air, nutrients, water, and rocks. There are different kinds of forest present on the earth based on the geographical and climatic conditions of a particular place. Forests serve as various purposes for human beings as well as nature. Hence, we can say that forest is an important resource. Let us see how forest is considered as a home of numerous plant species. There are different kinds of trees found in the forest, such as neem, bamboo, shishan, fig, sal, amla, and teak. Along with the trees, there are different herbs, shrubs, climbers, creepers, grasses, and various other plants. These plants serve various purposes for the environment as well as for human beings. There is no need to plant trees in the forest, as the forest provide favorable environmental conditions to the plant, and hence plants can germinate and grow on their own. What is crown? The upper part or the top of a tree is called crown. It may be round, widespread, or pyramidal. In the forest, different trees grow tall together and their branches appear as the roof of the tree forest. There is no sky will be visible through these trees. This is called canopy. Stratification in forest. What is meaning of stratification? Stratification is nothing but layers. It is dividing a natural habitat into several layers based on the height of the plants or vegetation of that particular area. This allows minimization of competition among the animals and allows them to survive easily. The number of layers in the forest depends on the climate, temperature, availability of the light, soil types, and rainfall. The trees of a forest are divided into following sections. Forest floors. It includes all leaves, stems, bark, and top layer of the soil. The herb layer is the second layer where you can see the plants without woody stems. These plants grow above the ground like grasses. They are usually less in number in forest. The third layer is a shrub layer, which consists of plants of small to medium size. It requires most of the sunlight. Understory. This is the next layer after the shrub. It is also lower than the canopy. It requires less amount of light to grow. The next layer is the canopy layer, which is called tree crowns. It is always exposed to the sunlight. The last is the emergent layer. It is the topmost layer of the trees. It is found in most of the tropical forest. So these layers forms the stratification in forest. Forests are a habitat of many kinds of animals. Forests provide favorable environmental conditions, food and shelter to varieties of wild animals, insects and microbes. The trees of the forest act as their shelter while a variety of plants and animals are their food. Forests are home to variety of insects and microbes because the soil of the forest is highly fertile and it provides favorable living conditions such as water and nutrients. Forests support different food chains due to the complex biodiversity. Different organisms present on the earth depends on each other. For let us take an example. Herbivorous feed on plants. Carnivorous feed on herbivorous. This chain of organisms being dependent on each other for their food. Likewise, the organism which depends on the other for their food forms a chain. This is known as food chain. Let us take food chain. In the picture, you can see producer requires water for their growth. The producer are taken up by the primary consumers or herbivores. Herbivores are eaten up by the secondary consumers known as omnivores. The next layer is the consumer who is a carnivores. The last is a tertiary consumer which is a carnivorous, top carnivorous. When all the plants and animals die, they form decomposers which helps to convert them into a useful nutrients. Process keeps going on and we call this as a food chain. What is humus? It is a dark colored substance found in the soil. It is made from dead and decaying organisms. It lives on the decaying matter and convert it to humus. Animals that feed on dead and decaying plants and animals and convert them into humus are called decomposers. The nutrients present in the soil are used by the plants, insects, and other microbes. When the organisms die, their remains are turned into organic matter by the decomposers. This keeps the soil fertile in the forest and the recycle begins. Why forests are called green lungs? The picture clearly shows the forests are considered as a green lungs because it is essential for carbon dioxide and other decomposition respiration takes place in the forest. We know that the plants take up carbon dioxide and release oxygen. Hence, the plants in the forest provide oxygen to the animals and the animals provide carbon dioxide to the plants. In this way, a balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide is maintained in the atmosphere in forest. Hence, we say that the forests are the green lungs. Do you think the people still live in forest? Yes, people from different tribes live in forest. These people depend on the forest for their food, water, shelter, and medicines. We call forest as a dynamic living entity. Why? All the living organisms, whether they are plants or animals, depends on each other. They help each other to survive in the forest. The herbivores are depend on the plants for their food. The carnivores depends on the herbivores for their food. The decaying matter of dead plants and animals and their excreta helps to grow more plants, thereby providing them with adequate nutrients to grow. The decomposers decay the dead matter in the forest and support the growth of the plants. So, we call forest as a dynamic living entity. How forests prevent floods and soil erosion. Forests act as a natural absorber and allows the rainwater to seep into the earth, and hence the water table of the area near the forest is high. The forest controls the flow of water and prevents floods. This is because the plants and the trees prevent the rainwater from flowing away. Hence, we can say that the forest regulate the supply of water to the nearby streams. The roots of the plants also binds to the soil. This prevents the heavy rainfall always from flowing it away. This prevents soil erosion. How forests prevent pollution? As said earlier, forests are a rich source of oxygen, and hence the air in and around the forest is always fresh and clean. Forests prevent strong winds or dust storm from flowing in the area. The areas surrounding the forest have cool climate and receive a good amount of rainfall. The forest absorb loud sounds of vehicles on the highways nearby. This prevents the noise pollution in the areas around the forest. Let us see how forests preserve the water cycle. We know that the plants get rid of an excess of water through the process of transpiration. In this process, the water is released as water vapor in the atmosphere. Hence, we can say forests increase the water vapor content in the atmosphere. This water vapor condenses to form clouds. These clouds, as said earlier, forms a rainfall. The rainwater gets into the ground and increases the underground water levels. We can say forests preserve the water cycle. The process of planting in an unproductive areas and thereby decreasing the forest land on earth is called deforestation. Human beings undergo this process to provide more space for the extending their habitats. This leads to several ill effects. Many animals and plants lose their natural habitat. Being unable to find a suitable environment, they may die or become extinct. Hence, we can say deforestation results in loss of biodiversity. It will lead to changes in the climate. Without any trees, the water cycle gets disturbed and the soil dries out. This only will say the deforestation and its effect. Let us have a chapter recap. Forest is a subsystem comprising various plants, animals, and microbes. In a forest, trees form the uppermost layer, followed by the shrubs. The herbs form the lowest layer of the vegetation. Different layers of vegetation provides food and shelter for animals, birds, and insects. The various components of the forest are interdependent on one another. The forest keeps growing and changing and hence can regenerate. In the forest, there is interaction between soil, water, air, and living organisms. Forests protect the soil from erosion. Soil helps the forest to grow and regenerate. Forests are the lifeline for the forest dwelling communities. Forests influence the climate, water cycle, and air quality.